Good morning, Commissioner Worth, Commissioner Henry. Can you hear us? Okay, good.
Good morning. Yes, I can.
No, hold on. I've got to unmute the television monitor. Okay, say something, Commissioner Henry.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you mute me? Do I mute me? Listen. Do I do this?
Recording in progress.
See, that's what we don't know. It's this. Look at me now. Nothing. It wasn't good.
Yeah, no, that's out there. It's canvas one.
For those of you online, you're waiting to get to a form that started. We now have that. Okay, as the executive director for confirmation of quorum as well as confirmation of the public notice.
We have a quorum and public notice was sent.
So the quorum constituted, we'll now call this January 18, 2024 meeting of the Kentucky Commission on Human Rights to order. Any request for public participation?
No request.
Then the next item is consideration of the minutes. There are two sets of minutes. The minutes November 16, 2023, and the minutes of December 15, 2023.
I have one correction, Chair, if I may.
Go ahead.
Cynthia, under this section where it says Commissioner Worth stated that the Senate bill, I just wanted to be clear that I mentioned that was in its initial draft. The final draft did not contain the same loss of license. So I just want to make sure that we included the phrase in its initial draft.
Any other corrections or additions from anyone? I think one additional one is that there is no commission board. There is the commission, which is constituted by commissioners. So there is a couple of places in the November 16th. There was a reference to commission board that needs to be corrected. And in the December 15th minutes, although we had a second guest who appeared, I don't know if the person ever identified himself. And that's it. So can I have a motion to approve minutes with those amendments?
So moved.
Second.
Can move a second to those minutes to approve. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The motion minutes stand approved. Next is our section reports. We'll start with the executive director.
Good morning and happy new year to all of the commissioners. I wanted to start out by first thanking the Board of Nursing for providing us this space so that we would have this meeting in our trend. I wanted to start out by talking just briefly about our HUD contracts and meetings that we've had. We have been able to draw down money from HUD for our partnership grant in the amount of $21,718.80. We have been working very closely with HUD to get an understanding and expectations as far as our case processing and our case age in our housing cases. As you notice in the book that we do have quite a few age cases in housing that were as a result mostly of personnel issues that we had in 23. We're working very hard to resolve that as we speak. I've been working with HUD to do that. We were also awarded and able to draw down money from EEOC of $130,630 as part of our work share agreement. So that was for cases that were processed, employment cases that were processed. We've signed a new work share agreement for fiscal year 2024, and that contract will go from October 1st, 2023 to September 30th, 2024. And it will be for 153 charge resolutions and 4 intakes. I have, and we talked about this previously, so I'm not going to go into detail, but I have been participating in online meetings with Abolish Slavery Kentucky, and they are still continuing to work to try to have the Kentucky Constitution amended to remove slavery as a part of that Constitution. In personnel, I had indicated that we had nothing for personnel, but we actually do. So I do want to recognize Addie Williams, who has 20 years of service to state government. And I just wanted to make sure that we recognized her dedication to not only the state, but to our agency in particular. We've had most of our enforcement staff participated in an investigator training for the entire week of January the 8th. And I believe, and that was held here at the Board of Nursing. And we've heard very good things about processes as far as interviewing, asking questions of the people that we serve and how to get information as you go through your investigations. We're doing all this as part of professional development to just increase our ability to do thorough investigations. There were 29 cases submitted for my review in December and well, since November 16th. There were 16 employment, 1 public accommodation, and 12 housing cases. 10 of the employment cases were no probable cause. 4 employment cases were withdrawn with settlement. One was no jurisdiction, and one was returned to the enforcement unit after a request for reconsideration. There was one public accommodation case that was withdrawn with settlement, and 10 housing cases were no probable cause, and one housing case was conciliated, and one was withdrawn with settlement. Education and outreach. I attended the National Council of Negro Women this past Saturday, the Living the Dream breakfast celebration. And it was well attended. We had several former chairs there and former executive director from the commission there as well. We have resolution that was drafted. I just indicated that in the report that it was drafted in December and passed in December. We provided a letter of support to Covington Church of Our Savior for a historic marker. And I did want to mention before I go any further, we've had, they weren't included in your clippings, but we have had 2 passings that I wanted to mention. Former Urban League President Ben Richmond has passed, and also J. Michael Brown has passed. And so I have distributed those clippings for you for your information. And then the Kentucky Civil Rights Hall of Fame, we're working on the process now. Our intent is to, in February, do the kickoff, media kickoff, and provide information to several media sources, and also post it on our website, Facebook and Twitter. And we will be sending out nominations. There will be the kickoff for our nominations during that time. And Mary Ann will provide more information on that if you need more information on that process. As you can see, we are moved. We still have property at the Hayburn building, and we're continuing to work to get all that out. We are right now in a temporary space here at the Board of Nursing, and we expect that our lease will be terminated for the Hayburn building on February the 29th of this year. We have not yet received a lease for the permanent location, but we hope to receive that soon. Do you have any questions about that?
Is the state still paying the Haven bill?
Yes. I also wanted to mention that you were sent a work plan for calendar year 2024. Since that, I have also sent this morning an updated version of that. If you have any questions, any edits that you want to the work plan, you could let me know, and then I will make those changes and send it back out.
One question. Last year, we recognized several people after the passing, putting them in Swan. Any more for our next meeting? We do that for Ben and Jennifer.
Any other questions? Report.
Oh, one more question. You mentioned we were again doing the abolish slavery.
I mentioned that I am participating in, well, they have weekly meetings. I haven't been going, but they have an ongoing meeting where they discuss activities and possible ways to try to get with legislators to encourage them to support.
Currently, Senator Neal and Representative Aaron
Yes.
have a bill.
Yeah, well, I've seen a draft.
It's in draft. Okay, very good.
Yes, I've seen the draft.
I have one curiosity question. You have a vacant position on your org chart.
Yes.
at the bottom, will that remain open? Or are you going to delete the position, or how is it going to work?
Well, right now, because of the expenses with the move, we're kind of holding off at least probably until fiscal year 25, which will be July.
Yep, and we made an emergency request to state properties to cover all of this operating cost or additional costs we've incurred as a result of their inability to hold a landlord accountable to his lease.
We have had discussions with real properties as it pertains to whether or not we should have to pay. Do you want to jump in, Coach, for that?
Yeah, I mean, it seems as if they we'll just assume pay it. We advocated for withholding it, at least in their name, and they've expressed their intent to pay.
Well, I don't have a problem with them paying, as long as it's not our dollars.
We are.
But I don't know. I assume that's our dollars.
It
And
is
it
our
was correct intention for us to pay.
Yes.
Why don't you set up a request for a meeting, which I will attend, and we'll ask Frank Smith, as the vice chair, to attend, so we can have a full discussion. And if they resist putting it off, I'll make a personal call to the secretary and go directly. Because it doesn't make any sense. That's not the way the statute or regulations read, nor have their practice been in the past. Given how, in terms of our funding, it has been substantially reduced and we operate on a shoestring, every dollar, every penny is important and matters, so.
They found it important that we continue to pay throughout all the problems. Thus can now go back to parts that we shouldn't have done.
Well, I don't have a problem. We pay. Now it's time for them to reimburse us. Any other questions for the executive director? Hearing none, since we're talking about budget, let's move to Brandon for budget and personnel.
You have my report before you. It's got a breakdown of how the the permanent lease compares to the Hayburn, and then the temporary lease, what we have now on an annualized basis. Be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Quick question, line E 145, that's a balancing E 145.
Yeah, what is the?
I know, and it's 4 cents. I just
Oh,
thought maybe it was something you were balancing there.
no, I didn't do that. That's Kentucky Retirements or Kentucky Public Pension Authority made an adjustment. I believe it's something that happened in the 80s that they found. It's a
Okay, I
lot.
was
Yeah.
surprised at it. That's
Yes, it's a balancing thing that that retirement did.
all. Okay.
I had
Thank
nothing.
you.
Yeah, I was surprised about that as well, but yeah.
Any other questions regarding budget personnel? Okay, hearing none, let's go to mediation. Son.
Good morning, everyone. You have my report before you. As you can see, there are less cases in mediation. I think the holidays have something to do with that. Given the lower influx of cases, I was able to schedule a lot more cases for this year. Since the last commission meeting, the report says that 1 case was successfully mediated and 1 is pending a resolution. So 2 were successfully mediated. 1 was actually mediated kind of concurrently with a complaint through the EEOC. So the complainant had a complaint with us that was duly filed with the EEOC and a separate complaint with the EEOC. This was my first time working so closely with the EEOC mediator, and it was a good learning experience. And so we were able to resolve both of the complainants' complaints through working together.
Any questions for Simon? Okay, so the enforcement center.
Good morning, everyone. We are moving cases. I do want to bring attention to a couple of things. One is the case H in housing. as you can see, we're moving them, we're making progress. There are some cases that are lingering age-wise that have a little bit more investigation that is needed. The problem with some of the age cases is that once again, when personnel left, they were transferred over, there was no work done. So the investigators, when they got those cases, they were brand new, basically, in a sense, the investigation processes. But we're making a lot of progress. I got some cases right now that are up for closure that did not make this commission meeting because of the moving and things like that. That were open in 21 and things like that. So age is going down and we will get that down, but cases are moving. We are almost at our goal for FY 24. So that's a positive thing to say. We are almost at our goal in housing already. So that's a good thing. Next thing I want to
Did we get anything extra from HUD? Did we close more than our contract?
do. Yes. I didn't know what to say. I don't know how that
You,
works.
you can always tell us everything.
Well, that wasn't that. I don't know if I'm supposed to, I don't know other things. Yeah. Yes, we do. Yeah.
There can be an amendment to both the EEOC contracts and the HUD contract.
So you said there were a number of cases that they're ready to close, didn't make this meeting.
Yeah,
How many
yeah.
cases were that?
Let's see, it should be 8. 8, and some of them were 22 and 21 was 21, which would bring the case to 18. But once again, like I say, in almost every meeting, I will not close a case that's not thoroughly investigated. I don't care if it was open in 2020. So that's just the thing, unless I'm talking about the direct.
No, so that's good news in terms of housing cases, because that's where the I guess where probably the biggest mountain climb has been for a while. So we make some progress.
I want to give kudos to the housing investigators for the hard work they've been doing, especially coming in. They're not even, not one of them is even here a year yet. And they made big progress. When it comes to training.
So what's the difference?
With,
They haven't been here a year and they made this much progress. And you know, there are other folks who have been around for years in sort of language.
Like you mentioned before, there were no work done in housing, basically. There was no staff. We had one housing staff for a period of time in 2023. But I think the key to that is that person was not trained. And I think training and communication with HUD, we're working very closely with our liaisons with HUD and making sure that our staff is trained. Cedric also has a vast amount of experience in housing already. He came back to the agency with that information and that knowledge, and he's been able to coach and train and develop these staff so that these cases can be closed.
and actually, I was gonna go into that. Training internal and external has been vital, and I was gonna get into that. That's what I want to draw your attention to was the office career development aspect of it, because we have the training that took place in December for the housing investigators that they went to regarding case management and investigation. The training that took place last week in the room we are in currently regarding investigation tactics and processes. Also yesterday, the employment EEOC had a training of ADA investigation to litigation, and our employment staff went to that one. The housing staff yesterday went to a HUD training about systemic investigations. So training has been vital, and I think that's been one of the things that has catapulted the cases to get closed in the proper and accurate way. So I'm going to bring attention to that. That's kind of the
Right, with the 8 that you didn't close, we'll be below 70. And we're not in 2023 at all. I don't have the 2022 or 2021 data in front of me. But you know, to have made in a matter of you've been back since what, June, July?
August.
Yeah. To have made that amount of progress in basically 5 months that we haven't been able to make for years is something to be commended for.
Thank you. That's the conclusion of my report on that note.
You don't want to add any more?
Have any communities reached out to you all to come and do any kind of training, since you already received trainings, to share some information about communities, or are you just gonna maybe do like a virtual, send that information virtually, or?
So outreach is Mary Ann. That's, well, I help out and assist at any time, but that's her thing, saying that.
And that's the kind of thing that when we do our roundtables, that we would ask him to come in as one of our speakers and share some of that information that they've been getting from training with the other local commissions with the executive directors there.
To
I
double
know a
back,
lot of people have they have newsletters now, like some of the communities, and I was thinking virtually to send out information, maybe periodically, quarterly or something from the commission to those agencies, just to share, to let them know, some of the things that we've done. I know that, in person is great.
Right.
We all love in person, but especially since they do have the electronic information, to send it out. So it's like kind of like an ongoing thing to share, with the communities.
I agree.
Cynthia told me to go ahead.
Huh?
Go ahead.
It is our plan to start back having a newsletter
Okay,
that we will send out. One of the things, like some of the trainings that they're receiving is specific to enforcement and investigations or litigations. And many of our local commissions do not have enforcement powers, right? They don't have investigations, but we still want to inform them about any law changes and, laws that have gone into effect, and so that they can pass on that information and come to them to help.
right.
Okay.
Thank you.
So Brandon and Cedric, I guess my follow-up question to the two of you is the governor made his budget proposal. Was there any increase in his budget proposal for us? The House has also dropped its budget. Was there anything in the House budget for us?
I saw they dropped the bill last night and I have not read it yet. I meant to, and I didn't get a chance to look at it before the meeting. The governor, we requested 3 additional positions in our branch budget request, and the governor requested that those 3 positions be funded and filled.
What he said.
I don't have, I can show you the exact amounts.
No, the only reason I raise that is that given the work that the improvements that we're making in terms of enforcement in housing and in employment, that becomes a substantial argument for, or at least evidence to demonstrate the need for that when this organization is fully funded and fully staffed, it can be impactful. So. Any additional questions related to enforcement? The education outreach, Marion.
Good morning. You all have my report. I'm happy to answer any questions that I can. Cynthia did briefly mention me when we talked about the upcoming Hall of Fame. Right now, we have tentatively scheduled it for the 25th of October. So February 1, as she said, will be our kickoff. Hopefully, prayerfully, our kickoff will involve advertisements in major newspapers, Courier, if we can afford it. We've got the Courier, we've got the Lexington Herald. We want to put something in the Louisville Defender, and one of the smaller papers, I can't remember the name of it, in Lexington. We want to be sure and get all of the information out to our Western Kentucky regions, Northern, Eastern. We have that in place, how to do that. This year, it will be a little different. All of our advertisements will include a QR code that folks can use to submit their nomination packets. And if things go well, Karen, she's, but with the COT, we will have it set up so that persons can't submit their final packet until a checklist has been completed. In the past, one of the things that's always kept us running over schedule is that folks would send partial packets in and say, oh, I'm going to get the picture to you in 2 weeks. Oh, I'm going to get this to you in 2 more weeks. And it would not get there. And then after the event was over, we would get numerous complaints about, I sent in my application packet, but my person wasn't nominated. Even though we had told them repeatedly in writing and email, your packet is not complete. So hopefully, if everything works out well this way, the packet can't even be submitted until all boxes have been checked. And then they can hit the submit button. And they will come to Karen, me, Cynthia. We'll go from there. campaign will start February 1. And we are going to say the end of April. Knowing that, just like with our extensions from our responses on April 29th, somebody's gonna call and say, can I have 3 more days? But absolute final 100% cutoff time for receiving packets should be May 15th. Okay, so that's where we are on Hall of Fame. We are deciding a location. Was that what you're gonna say?
Yeah, I was gonna say, mention the proposals for.
Okay, we're looking at Hopkinsville as one. They have some really nice facilities and they tend to be able to draw a good crowd from, at least from the Western Kentucky area. We've already done Lexington, we've done Ashland, did we do Ashland?
We did.
We've done Northern Kentucky.
K-State,
We've
Lexington.
worn Lexington out, and we do want to make sure that we're exposed. That's, you know, one of the things even in our work plan is increasing exposure. So we would like to sometimes go somewhere else other than Louisville, Lexington. So we're really looking at Western Kentucky. We haven't been out there for a large event for a while. So that's kind of where we are now. In terms of cities, you know, we've not done Eastern Kentucky. And we don't know what type of reception crowd-wise versus the resources that we put into it that would bring. And we don't necessarily get a lot of nominations from that region. Often nominations equals attendance. So we're just kind of up in the air about proposing an Eastern Kentucky city, but that's up to you guys, not us. So that's where we're on one page and what else.
And we are seeking, or we're starting to reach out to possible judges.
Mhm.
We do have judges that we've used probably since 2000. I know that there are some people that are retired now. This includes historians, civil rights leaders, community activists. So
Protected class, we try to get like a representative from
every
all of
protected
our protected
class.
classes.
If you have anyone that you feel that we should consider and need to reach out to, if you could let us know as soon as possible. Because we would need to reach out to people and have our judges in order before we start collecting these, and putting together these nominations.
Because we send all the packets to each judge. There's like a 2-3 week turnaround. Judges send them back to us, then we send them to a CPA, so no one can say that we, you know, fooled around in the scoring or whatever of the recipients. So, yeah, please send those to us. Thought about this year potentially having a guest, someone as a speaker during the award ceremony. And there's a gentleman, I just threw it out there. He's written a book. He's from down in Western Kentucky, and it's called Across the Kentucky Color Line: Cultural Landscapes of Race from the Lost Cause to Integration. His name is Lee Durham. I just happened to run across him on Twitter, and I'm gonna reach out to him, at least if we can get him there, or maybe get some of his books to put out for display, just to FYI. So, if you guys are interested.
Where is from in Western Kentucky?
Let me go back and read it. I thought he was down around the Mayfield area.
It's like Franklin.
You got him, Frank? Oh, he's Franklin.
John Johnson.
Johnson's area. Franklin and Johnson kind of go together. Okay. So that means we can probably definitely get him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
And then the other thing, and Cynthia also mentioned, normally it'll take as much time, I apologize. We did,
You get it now?
get approved for the partnership grant with HUD. Just know that it's very, they're very meticulous. So we don't make a move or a step without their approval. So you can't just come and go, well, hey, I want you to also do 25 posters and send them here. Because if it's not in the original work plan, they won't approve it. And if we spend it, they'll try to make us pay it back. So just know that we already have an approved grant with them. One of the big things that we'll be doing, probably the biggest, is the Kentucky State Fair this year. We haven't been booth at the fair for quite a while. So we will need everybody's assistance, all hands on deck. If you guys want to come and sit for an hour or two, just know that if you plan to come and sit for an hour or two, then you need to plan on a 4 to 5 hour event. Because it takes an hour to get in, maybe 30 minutes to park and walk to the booth, and then another hour to get out. So that's it.
And can I just add to Mary Ann's, all the work that she's doing, we're also gonna be, restarting the Gallery of Great Black Kentuckians posters. And so, we're right now researching people. Of course, people have already told me Ben Richmond and J. Michael Bryant might be people that we should consider. We also have talked.
Shelbyville, I think.
Yes. And we've also talked for many years about also instituting a gallery of great Kentuckians, period. So it reflects the work and the people that do great things in all of, again, the protected classes that we have. So we're going to be working on that this year as well.
Thank you.
So if there's anything I can do to help, please let me know, both in regards to the Civil Rights Hall of Fame and Safe Fair.
Any more questions from Mary Ann? Okay, move to cult and legal unit.
Good morning.
Good morning.
No significant changes from last month's report. We have charged a new housing case and filed a case in circuit court. A couple more probably to be added for next month. Last time we spoke, we talked about the regulations. You asked Chairperson what changes were being suggested by the legislature. At the time, I told you nothing major, just changes to the materials incorporated by reference. I went back to review those changes, and my answer is still the same. It's nothing significant. Now that we have an address, I've started to work on some of those changes. We also talked in the past about externs from law school. We have none this semester. Perhaps stories of the Hayburn building have infiltrated the law school. At least that's what it was sold to me. But there is a fair at the school, February or March. I made sure that to tell Dan Cannon, who leads the charge over there, to let me know. And I'll make sure that we're represented so we can have those for the fall semester.
Or something.
Or summer. We've had those in the past. I've got nothing further unless there are questions or unless you would like to hear the House budget numbers that you asked about for the proposed budget. I have to look that up.
We pull up to tell us what they are.
All right. The governor's proposed budget appropriated just over 2.3 million in 24-25, and then almost 2.4 in the general fund. The House proposed budget, I think, had 1.8. Sorry, I've got a couple of windows here. Yes, 1.833 for 24-25 and 25-26. The federal fund spending limit in the House proposed bill is $445,000 for each of those years. And the governor's proposed budget $446,000 and change. So total appropriation under the governor's budget would be for 24-25 is 2.762 million and 2.84 million for 25-26 at the House, respectively, 2.288 for 24-25 and 2.338.
Why would they not appropriate the full amount of federal funds? House budget, it doesn't make any sense to not, or at least to allow for appropriation for the full amount of what is available, as opposed to trying to reduce that.
Sure, I think last year, the last budget, they cut the general fund amount and then upped our federal spending amount. That's what they did last time. That's,
So we may not ask for additional because they'll cut general funds again.
that's all I.
How much, quick question. How much did they cut the income taxes? Because it hurts, and in a poor state, it hurts the poor. 'Cause there are people who can't compete, even though they try, they don't have the skills to compete, and they have to eat every day. Which means it's gonna be a problem in our society moving forward. These are curiosity questions. I'm not complaining or anything.
The legislations that was passed 2 years ago or 2 terms ago set up for a 0.5% reduction in each of the years out. So for this year, it would be a 0.5%, but they have to, in fact, authorize it in the budget for it. But it would be again 0.5%, which will take us down to what? A little less than 2% right then, with that next reduction.
When does it go to zero then? Because if you keep cutting 0.5%, eventually.
No,
gonna be
that's
zero.
the plan. The legislation that was passed was to take it to zero with 0.5% reduction over each of those years, assuming that the revenue numbers, revenue projections were in fact hit in those years. And so for the current year, the revenue numbers was in fact hit. And in fact, it's better, way better than they had anticipated. So the question is, are they going to stay at a 0.5% or are they going to do more?
When do people start complaining that we're falling behind? I mean, I'm serious. No, in areas where people are funding the schools, funding infrastructure, they tend to move forward. You can't keep saying we're falling behind if you're not making an effort to fund your infrastructure and fund your economic development.
And I concur.
I'm not complaining. I'm just asking a curiosity question.
I think that question, Commissioner Glenn, has been asked for probably, I know at least where I've been involved for the last 35 years. And the message hasn't gotten through yet in terms of doing something to make a real difference. The governor proposed, we are in a teacher crisis in education in this state. Governor asked for an 11% increase for teachers across it. I think what they put, 4% in the budget, 3 or 4% in the budget for teachers. Then instead of sort of mandating that teachers get it, the language is recommending that at least the school boards, if the money is appropriated, give the teachers the 4%. So
You have to understand too, that we're in the bottom 10% in the entire nation. And then the other people suck up our teachers.
Yeah.
They suck up our nurses. But we're short of nurses too. And our society is growing older.
Yeah.
Again, I'm gonna be quiet.
no, you speak loudly, because I think, my frustration is, I think that we all see the state year after year continue to fall behind. We're not making the kind of progress that we need to make. And yet, in spite of that, the electorate, year after year, send back the same folks who are not making that type of progress. So until Kentuckians as a group wake up and say we want more and make their vote say I want more, we're going to be stuck in this rut.
Education was exactly equal in this country in 1970. The large cities on the East and West Coast started to pull away in 1970. Then everybody else started complaining we're falling behind. What did they think was going to happen? I'm sorry. Again, I'm not complaining. I'm just talking out loud.
Well, if you do not believe that investment in education and economic development, if you think does not pay dividends, all I ask you to do is look at North Carolina in the research triangle and what has happened since 1975 in that entire area. The Raleigh-Durham Airport used to be 4 gates. I think they got 40, 45, or 50 now. And you look at that development. You look at the number of publicly traded companies that have been developed in that triangle out of the investment the state made in terms of research and economic development. You look all around you, it's there.
Second largest banking zone in the country.
Yeah.
Outside of New York.
So I still have hope one of these days, but
Okay. I'm sorry.
it's getting thin.
Yeah.
I don't know whether we can do this now and not discussing this as the open records request? You want to do that in an executive session, or you can do it now?
Or after I respond to it, it's due today. I think it might be.
Well, we may need to have an executive session. Because we can say caution in terms of little potential litigation. That's what you want. We'll do it to the agenda. Nothing else. So, any other questions for Cole? Okay, thank you for that. There are no committee reports, but what I had put on my, well, there are no committee reports. What I had put on at least my notes was old business, and Cynthia talked about this in terms of the work plan. You got a new draft of the work plan. You know, if you review it, if there are any additional comments, changes, or things you want to make, share that with Cynthia so that, you know, we can finalize that for the staff to go forward with it. It is in a very aggressive plan. There are metrics, there are real plan.
There are no double on this, which means it's not on the website.
Okay.
Not for mine.
Just too bad.
Okay.
But if you have anything else, send those to Cynthia. As I say, it's a very aggressive work plan, and I think it's a plan that we as commissioners can follow. And it has measurements for accountability in it, so we'll know where we are, what we're doing. We already know that, but we'll have documented proof of where we are, what we're doing, and becomes a document and a talking point for dealing with legislators and people external to this organization in terms of where we are, to see what kind of impact that we make and what we're doing. So that's old business. Next is new business.
All of you were sent by email and should have copies in front of you, 3 respective resolutions. The language of all 3 is borrowed from other organizations. Resolution recognizing Holocaust Remembrance Day is borrowed from both the legislature and the governor's office in Kentucky. The resolution according to the Crown Act is borrowed with brief edits to make the house Kentucky from the NAACP. I assume I don't have to explain the Crown Act to anybody. Good, okay. A resolution calling for a transgender bill of rights is borrowed from a resolution in the U.S. House calling for the same. The first resolution is recognizing Holocaust Remembrance Day, which is January 27th, which is the anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz-Birkenau, the Nazi death camp, and the other 2 call on the legislature here in Kentucky to support the Crown Act and the Transgender Bill of Rights. Question?
Let's deal with them one at a time. So, so you want to do the Holocaust Remembrance Day first?
On my staples, I have Holocaust Remembrance Day and the Crown Act and the Transgender Bill of Rights. Want me to read through it? Everyone had it yesterday.
So what's your pleasure regarding the resolution recognizing Holocaust Remembrance Day?
I moved to be voted for approval.
There's a second?
Second.
Okay, so it's been moved to second. Discussion on the resolution. Okay, and let me share with you my view of this. I think the resolution is appropriate. Except I have, I guess, three comments. One, the fourth and fifth whereas has no relevance to Remembrance the Holocaust Remembrance Day. And then we are the Kentucky Commission on Human Rights, not Human Rights Commission of Kentucky. So those three.
Seems to me that recognizing anti-Semitism is the entire point of Holocaust Remembrance Day. Combating future issues is why we remember the day. We remember when the world ignored as Jews were being slaughtered. That's why we chose when Auschwitz was liberated, and any day we could have chosen.
And all of that is in the resolution. The fourth and fifth whereas do not relate to the exact remembrance of the date. I think that's what we're talking about, the date that's on the calendar, not bringing current events that are some of which are supported and some which are not supported to it. I think that as a body that we are, we can do the resolution doing remembrance, Holocaust remembrance, but those two things plus the name of the organization needs to be changed.
I think to put out a different resolution, the governor's putting out, that the legislature is putting out, where we choose not to combat anti-Semitism today, as we recall America ignoring anti-Semitism in the past,
Had
a foolish public choice.
Worry, I guess I have not seen, you keep referencing the governor's resolution or governor's statement. Do we have a copy of that?
Here's the copy. Just with our name instead of the governor.
I guess I'd like to see what the governor put out.
I believe the governor is going to officially release it on the 27th. This is both with the resolution that's in front of the House and Senate, as well as in front of the governor.
Okay, what's your pleasure?
Question, you said the governor's already approved it, or it's going to be approved?
When we release on the 27th. I believe it's already been approved.
It's already been, so,
That's what was communicated to you earlier.
right, and that's what you said, do you have a copy, or do we have a copy of just? I know it's, but it has our name on it, but is there a copy of one?
I don't believe I have a copy of the governor's yet.
Any further discussion? Motion on the floor.
I have a procedural question, Chair.
Go ahead, Commissioner Work.
Is it possible that we have a reading of these proposed resolutions and then have the ability to have some study on them and then vote at a separate meeting? I'm used to having meetings in my world where there are proposals such as this, but then not an immediate expectation that they will be voted upon, that there are various readings of documents such as the ones that Rabbi has so kindly provided to us. But, my anxiety is that we're presented with these and then being asked to vote up or down on them in such a short period of time. So the procedural question is, are we able to take this under advisement, look at what the governor's office may or may not be putting out, and then respond at a later time, either via an electronic vote or at a separate meeting?
I think whatever the pleasure of the body is what we can do. I think in terms of this, the first resolution we're talking about is some urgency because the date is January 27th. I'm used to seeing resolutions given in sufficient time to be able to see it, discuss, do some research on it, and then be able to come to the meeting. But and because of the urgency of the January 27th date, I think this was one that we probably should recognize, because we won't be able to get back together until today is the 18th, and want to be able to do that before. And then our past history in terms of being able to get a special meeting call to adopt things has not worked as efficiently as we should, in terms of where it is. So again, from my perspective, again, I find that the resolution honoring the date to be appropriate. I think the two whereas clauses are not necessary in the correction to the name of the organization.
So I certainly agree with you in the correction name of the organization. I would suggest that recognizing the history of America ignoring anti-Semitism, that Jews were being murdered, or refusing to acknowledge anti-Semitism continues today, which is what the whereas clauses do. I think would be a grave mistake, and I think would make us the story more than Holocaust and international Holocaust.
Frank,
Yes.
will you assume the chair so I can make a motion?
Yes, I will.
So I would like to amend the motion that's on the floor by striking those two whereas clauses and correcting the name of the organization.
Okay, the motion has been amended to strike the two whereas clauses. Is there a second?
Second.
You have second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Again, the purpose of the resolution is recognizing that as a taking place, the United States, as well as the majority of countries in the world, turned a blind eye. The United States was aware of what was taking place during the Holocaust, and they chose to do nothing as 6 million Jews were slaughtered.
The motion has been moved and seconded, and we gave time for discussion. I'd asked all in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. I now rescind the chair back to chairperson.
So on the floor for us is the resolution as amended by the motion. All those in favor of the resolution
Space for
as
discussion before we vote.
speak.
Excellent. So, what this recognizes, the reason that the United Nations in 2005 created International Holocaust Remembrance Day was not only to recount history, but to recognize that the entire world ignored the Holocaust as it was taking place. The entire world was aware of the Holocaust as it was taking place. They were aware of the death camps. They were aware of Jews being slaughtered in the streets, and the entire world turned a blind eye. I think to create a resolution to remember when the world turned a blind eye, while turning a blind eye to Jews being slaughtered, while turning a blind eye to Jews being made unwelcome on American college campuses and American cities here in Kentucky, I think is a insult to the Jewish community, a very poor decision on our part.
So on the floor for the vote is the resolution, resolution for the remembrance of Holocaust Remembrance Day as amended. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries. So the resolution as amended is approved by the body and we can go forward with that. Now, as it relates to the additional two, given what Commissioner Worth had said, in terms of giving the body an opportunity to study and look at these, as if the commission wants the additional time, we can do that in terms of where we are as it relates to the additional two. Because I don't think the time pressure on those two is the same as it was on the first resolution. And then the other thing I would add, and I'm not certain when Terrence was here, we did something on the Crown Act as a body. I don't know if it was a resolution or exactly what we did.
We as staff have looked to see if we can find a copy of the resolution, and we have not. We all remember a meeting, we remember listening to a testimony of a young lady or several young people as it related to the Crown Act, but we have not been able to locate a resolution.
Okay. So I guess what's your pleasure regarding the additional two resolutions? Is there a motion to approve one of those or each one of those? Or is there the preference to have further study review of those to come back with resolution that we can in fact vote on?
I would note that while the clock is not quite the same as January 27th, there's currently a bill on the legislature floor for the Crown Act. And I think that at the beginning of session, while the session is still going on, for us to be able to raise our voice to say this is something we support, I think is important. I would make perhaps one amendment in addition to the governor and the leaders at the House and Senate, that a copy also be presented to Representative Brown, who's carrying the bill.
For the Crown Act.
Yeah. I think it's something we've discussed before, something we've discussed at length for a very long time. I, for one, don't see a reason we shouldn't vote on it.
Did you just say something about the governor as it relates to the Crown Act?
How it was going to be presented.
Oh.
Here it was presented to the government. We wanted to add Representative Brown.
Hey, what's your pleasure?
Related to the Crown Act, I don't see personally anything that prohibit us taking action on that. Just my thoughts.
This is something that we discussed at length when Terrence was here. And I believe everyone's in agreement on the passing of the resolution. And the language is consistent with what we have discussed. I don't see anything out of the ordinary.
I guess two questions I would have is in the second whereas we're citing a 2020 editorial. What has happened since then? The same is true. The U.S. House of Representatives passed a bill in 2020. What has happened since then? Has there been any update or any changes in there in terms of those two particular? So I think I'm in support of the resolution, but I think we ought to, if there's something more timely and relevant that we should include in it, we ought to include it.
Is anyone aware of any changes or updates as to why the bill is up now for consideration?
Wasn't it voted when Terrence testified? Wasn't it voted out of committee, failed, and didn't get a vote on the floor?
Correct.
Anybody memory better than mine?
Commissioner Cheney's.
Yeah, Commissioner Cheney.
I tend to agree with Rick for resolutions that are not time bound. I think it would be helpful if they were included in the commission book and provided in advance of the meeting, so that we have, as opposed to the day prior to. I think I would like to see us table these until our next meeting when we have an opportunity to look at them.
Fair point.
there's not a motion on the floor to take any action. They just been proposed. Is there a motion? Well, I guess I won't say that. What is the pleasure of the body? Would somebody like to make a motion as to an action?
Having heard two commissioners express the protocol of the commission book, presentation of these, as well as time to review, I move that we table action today until our next commission meeting, giving us time to update the dates with any new dates or information as Chair Burse has suggested.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and second for a motion to table. Is a motion to table debatable? I don't remember. One of them is, I can't remember which one. But anyway, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion to table the resolutions, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Yeah. Only one nay, so the motion carries, so those will be tabled to the. What I would suggest is we have drafts of the resolutions. Any changes or additions that you would like to make to those, send those to the executive director to be incorporated in, and that these resolutions be put on the agenda for our next meeting. Subject to if there's something moving in the Kentucky legislature before then that requires that we take action on these prior to our next meeting, that we call a special meeting to approve whatever version that is available at that point in time.
Chair, may I ask another procedural question possibility?
Yes.
Chair, one of my curiosities is if we're going to sign on for these, and once again, my concerns are not about the issues themselves, but just the process here. When we are mentioning various figures here, so there's population figures mentioning the number of transgender individuals in the country. All I would ask, if it's possible, with our executive director is, could we have some kind of reference about where those numbers came from? I want to know before I sign on to a document, where are we pulling this data from? Just in order to make sure that we are well prepared for any type of pushback or additional questions from the public sector.
This was already, they were drafts of.
Yeah, this came from
Yeah.
congressional resolution.
Yeah, it came from another resolution.
Well, I think to Commissioner, I think that what if we're going to use other organizations' resolutions, then I think we ought to be provided with those resolutions, and so that we can do that. What I would ask staff is in terms of going forward, when we're being presented documentation that people reference, and I know staff did not put these together, is that if there is some historical or documented record that supports the statements we're making, the numbers we're using, that we understand that, at least the commissioners understand that, so they will make a decision on an informed basis. So
yes, thank you. That's exactly what I'm looking for.
Okay, is there any additional new business? Okay, hearing none, our next commission meeting will be Thursday, February the 15th, 2024, unless there's some urgency on any of the resolutions that may take place prior to then. I think there was a request made that the resolutions be prepared for Ben Richmond and J. Michael Brown. So we'll make the request is made by one of the commissioners. So hearing no objection, would say that's a request from the commission to the staff itself. So that's part of the record. The only other thing is, I think several of us have had our term on this body has expired. I have not heard anything from the governor's office. My source for the governor's office is no longer there, so.
Neither is mine. However, I did call boards and commissions and I talked to someone there, Michaela. She indicated that our terms were before the governor on his desk and that she had no timetable as far as when it would be reviewed, and she would let us know as soon as possible.
Is there any other item or announcement anyone would like to make? Having completed the work on this agenda, without objections, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all. Appreciate it. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Can I have a motion for the commission to go into executive session to discuss potential proposed or pending litigation? There's a second? The second, all those in favor say aye. Okay, so we're gonna go into executive session. I ask only the commissioners, legal counsel, and the executive director to remain. So Brandon, I don't know how you do that, but you can move them to a separate room.
Yeah, make it private. Yeah, I'm just gonna stop the recording and stop the stream. Motion.